think we can start this first talk. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the first talk of FoodBack. We have this lovely series of talks with various experts and themes around the world. And just quickly to introduce briefly the project, the FoodBack project is a capacity building project funded by Erasmus Plus, and it's now reaching its end at the end of March. And it's a project about youth entrepreneurship in the agro-food industry. And through the time of the project, we've had various training courses, local workshops, a big youth seminar held here in Italy. And now we're approaching the end with the final evaluation happening next week. And over the project, we've trained over 90 young people in developing business plans. And now we've got also some job shadowers happening. And in total, we've achieved more than 25 business plans. So we've achieved a lot until now in the project. Today, we have with us André, who is he will introduce himself as well, but expert in permaculture design, social entrepreneur, and food systems. And we're going to have the interview from Elma, who is one of the also participants in the project. So I will pass the floor to Elma, and just a few quick rules about the discussion. Please, you can keep your cameras on, but keep your mics off, because there may be more than one person in the same room, and we don't want to hear echoes. And at least like that, we can hear Andre talking and Elma as well. So I leave now the floor to Elma and to Andre.
So good morning from the sunny Berlin. Thank you, Joe, for the introduction. My name is Elma, and I'm usually a project manager in an organization called Mostar Frinsprojekt. And as Joe mentioned, this morning I will be the interviewer of Andre at the topic of social entrepreneurship and food systems. So during this whole talk, you will feel free to drop down questions which you're having towards Andre in the comment section, as well as use this moment to introduce yourselves, as well as your NGOs and the inspiration why you're joining this talk. Joe already mentioned what the FoodBack project is about, so I will not repeat, since we are time limited and we have only 45 minutes approximately for this session. And a quick reminder that this session will be also streamed on social media, so please take care of the language which you are using in the comment section, to respect each other and to have like normal questions and a nice conversational flow. So when I was looking up the biography of Andre, it's really long and there's a lot of achievements, and it would take us like really more than 45 minutes just to talk about that. So I tried to somehow merge it and to keep it really short, since André Soares has more than 28 years of experience in permaculture designing, as an educator, as a social and sustainability expert. Also, he has played a key role in developing eco-educational centers, promoting sustainable agricultural systems, and helping communities to transition towards regenerative food systems. And he has also been part of he was a sustainability director of a boom festival in Portugal. For those who don't know what it is, please Google it, because it's amazing. They were implementing innovative environmental initiatives that have inspired audience from over 70 countries. I would really like to thank you for joining us this morning and for exchanging your favorite morning podcasts and radio station with our online FoodBack talk. And we will try to keep it as interesting as possible, because online talks are usually boring, but we will turn it around. And Andre already started with changing the background from the dual white one to this really nice natural one. So yeah, since I'm a Balkan woman and we tend to talk a lot, I will try to cut myself down here and to welcome Andre. I wish you a good morning. Actually, it's an evening there from Brazil, where you are joining us. And to start, I would like to ask you, what was actually your inspiration to dedicate your life towards sustainability and permaculture? Welcome, Andre.
Thank you, Emma. Very nice words from you. And thank you, Joe, for organizing this. Thank you, Laura, and every friendly face that I can see over there. It's good to see you all again. I'm not stranger to this group here. Yeah, a lot of them know me, and I miss being there in Cora in Italy with the beautiful sunsets and great food. I'm actually joining you from Australia in Byron Bay. It is evening now here. It's dark. Just got dark here now, and we have just gone over a cyclone, a tropical cyclone, and we're just coming out of it. So, and like in a few years ago, we actually got flooded here. So that was a big issue. And we always have to be prepared for that sort of things, which is connected to what we're talking about today. So I know that time goes really quick on these things, and I'm not going to stretch things too much because when we see we don't get to talk all the things we like to talk about. But you asked me what got me started into social entrepreneurship, and I have to say, I didn't one day decide I want to be a social entrepreneur. I think what starts most people is what started me. It's about a social concern. You worried about the world. You want to make the world a better place, but you also have to make a living. You also need to make money. You also need to pay rent, and you need to feed yourself and sometimes a family. And actually, what started me really into this track was starting a family. I had my daughter is today, she's 35 years old, but 35 years ago, it's when kind of the spark happened, and I had to do something about it. I had to do something about at least trying to make a better world for her. There was a baby, and I think, well, this baby deserves to have a better world than I inherited, even though, it's not an easy job. Social entrepreneurship, I think we can talk a lot about this, but I don't want to stretch it too much, and I want to have this as a conversation. And anybody can bring in chats, and I think that's a lot richer than if I just go blah, 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 and people fall asleep over there. But it comes down to that concern about trying to make the world a better place. And then we have an option. You can do that as an entrepreneur, which means you're going to be your own boss, and you're going to have to invent and create solutions for that problem that you see in society, or that necessity, or that need that you want to solve, or you're going to work for somebody doing that. But what's the difference between social entrepreneurship and the regular entrepreneurship, or maybe we could even call the anti-social entrepreneurship, right? Is that business do have to think about money. When you start something, even if you're doing an NGO, you have to think, and you have to plan, and you have to calculate how you're going to deal with money, because you have to pay people, you have to pay things, you have bills to pay. The difference is you will make, if everything goes well, if works well, if you deliver a good service, or if you're doing something that is getting a good response from your public, you will get some profit. And the difference is what do you do with that profit? Okay? Some business, all they do is they use that profit to make more profit, and to continue making more profit, and then to distribute to their shareholders or the people that want the benefit from that business. And we can give many examples of corporations that the ultimate purpose is purely profit for the shareholders. A social enterprise is different. A social enterprise aims to change the world. That means that when you do make money, and that's not an easy thing to do, but when you do make some money, you will use that money for that benefit that you set up to help in the first place. That's what it is. So usually a social enterprise starts with a problem or with a necessity. Sometimes locally, your community, your locality, you see something that is needed over there, and you think, or you'd like to, or it could be your passion, and it helps a lot if you're passionate about it, to to change that situation for the better, not just for yourself, but for everyone else around you, for your community. That's the difference in terms of social entrepreneurship. Okay, and this what I started was that. There's many good examples, and we can talk about that. I just would like to know, it's like how are we going so far? Did I define enough, or
Yes, of course.
yeah?
Yes, and
Now
you
please
actually
feel free to interrupt me, because I like it's not just the Balkan people that talk a lot, you know. I am Brazilian, and Brazilians talk all the time too. And I'm talking about something that I am passionate about. I do love what I do. Yeah,
Oh,
it's been my work all my life, and I'm proud of what I do too.
yeah,
So there are many good examples. You know, I have over my life, I have started a number of social enterprises, and I was fortunate, and also no, it wasn't just fortune, but it was hard work to win a prize in Brazil of social entrepreneurship. That was the recognition that the impact of what we were doing was impacting in the country reality. You know, we made some changes, and those changes were impactful. Um, there are many examples, and we're talking about specifically food systems. So, and that's another thing we need to clarify, I think, before we get into the conversation. Because when people think about food systems, they always think, okay, it's about providing food or cooking food. But when you think about food systems, it goes almost connected with everything that we do in our society. This is why we make our communities. This is why we live close to each other. It's because at some point we get hungry. And so everything that is connected to producing food, to preparing the places to produce food, to taking care of the land that most of the time is produced on land, but also in water, but taking care of those places that produce food, processing it, every kind of processing, transporting and moving food from one place to another, and finally disposing of it. Like, what do you do with packaging? What do you do with the leftover of the food? What do you do with the waste? And what do you do with the human waste? You know, and there are many examples, and over my experience, I have tried different spots of this web that is food systems. So I have that worked a lot with permaculture, and I have worked with technology trying to increase the availability of certain technologies to better the food systems where I lived and where I stayed. So you mentioned some of my experience, and we have started a few things. I can give you some examples of that, but tell
Yeah,
me.
I would like to actually hear some examples from you because as I was part of the program and I also was part of your workshops together with Lucy's workshops, and I know that
Yeah.
both of you are more like acta non verba and that you're really focused towards the practical examples, and you showed us the super adobe houses which you made and the swales which
Yeah,
are connected to permaculture now. And
right.
but I would also like to know what real examples do you have from food-related social entrepreneurships that have made changes, for instance, towards the community or towards a bigger circle? And you can tell us something about yours as well as others, if you would like
Well,
to.
we can find, I think we need to look in terms of scale, you know, because we're talking to mostly young people here, and most young people think that they have to start alone. And I think in terms of scale, that's something that we need to bring to the attention of the young people. Uh, we don't have to start alone, and it's actually not a good idea to start alone. Alone is one of the hardest ways. I have tried things before alone, and it's one of the hardest ways of starting an enterprise. When we talk about business in today's world, we're talking about networks, we're talking about connections, we're talking about communication, we're talking about involving other people. I know that the language of the business world is a lot about competition, but
Yes.
when we talk about social entrepreneurship, I mean, it's obvious in the word, we're talking about cooperation. We're talking about finding ways that we can have win situations, and there's no loser. I mean, talking about looking at the world as a business, we're looking at what's going on now in the United States with the political changes over there, and looking at whole countries as we need to win, we need to, And it's the opposite. We're talking about the exact opposite concept, the concept of cooperating, the concept of connecting and finding common ground, finding commonalities. For example, when I worked at Boom Festival, one of the biggest problems that I found in the world that I didn't know until then is the question of sanitation. A lot of people have an idea about that, but they don't actually know the numbers, and the numbers are shocking when it comes down to sanitation around the world. And sanitation is connected to our food systems. When we realize that almost half of the population in the planet doesn't have access to clean water to drink. And they actually, most of the diseases that are causing child mortality around the world are connected to consuming polluted water. And that polluted water, most of the time, is polluted by human waste, by excrement from the communities. Because we don't actually deal with the problem. It's one of those problems that everybody likes to look the other way. There's many problems like that. Young people know that exactly because it is very common to see that kind of situation, people turning away from the opportunities. Because when we look at a problem as an opportunity, then is when you're going to see the opportunities for social entrepreneurship. It's in the problems that we find the opportunities to do something and the ways to pay for it, to sponsor it, to find solutions that actually will pay for themselves. It's really a question of mindset. There are many examples, like near us here, there are examples of cooperatives of food production, like as a farmer owns some land, but really it's the old ways of farming, the way that we used to farm in the last century, in the second half of last century, was really destructive. What we did is we modernized in quotation marks, and we put machinery into the farms. And that machinery made us adapt the land to ourselves instead of us adapting to the land, to nature. And it's a major change in that. So the way to do that is looking at farming also as a different way. Maybe what we need to look at is going back to the cooperative farming, where a number of people can farm together. There are good examples here in a rich country, in Australia. There are good examples that farmers organize that connection, and it's all about networking. Say, okay, this piece of land now is going to be leased or it's going to be used by that group, and that group is going to produce this, and the waste of that production is going to go to the other production as a resource. And then we start connecting the dots, because so far food systems around the world, and that's not an exclusive problem of the rich world or the north, as we say, or the south. It's a problem from everyone. They have been looked at that linearly. And if we look at linear, all we do is collect resources from one end, grab it from the soil or and then we end up dumping waste in the other end. And then we have two problems. We have depletion of resources and pollution and degradation of the land. And in the other end, we have the incapacity to produce. The land becomes polluted, the ocean is polluted, and we can't keep doing that. We can't keep expanding. That's like in a nutshell. I think what we can mention in terms of entrepreneurship. It's all about cooperation. Now, I'm curious to hear what are the specific questions that people have, because I understand that sometimes it's not easy to see that from where you stand. And sometimes we have to look at a different angle. But when we look, I think in terms of giving a guidelines for people, it would be good to look at food systems as almost everything, right? Almost everything that you can think of doing will be connected to food at some point. It will be, it doesn't have to be growing food, but it could even be computer systems or softwares or anything that will help people to live in a more harmonious way in their community, amongst nature, will be connected to food in one way or another.
Yeah,
And I
of
think
course.
that's the main thing.
Yeah, and that's this circular chain of always having energy transforming, and similar to that as well is in our bodies, as you said, food is something which we are needing on a daily basis, and without food we cannot exist. So, but you also mentioned that there are some problems on this way in making this world sustainable and making it in the way we should actually live, and this climate change problems and similar. So I would like also to ask you, what do you think, in your experience, what is the biggest problem and the biggest challenge, actually, which social entrepreneurs are facing in this agro-food section?
Okay. Yes, you're right. There are many challenges, but I think we're looking for the one of the problems, maybe not the biggest one, but one of the problems is that we're looking for the answers in the wrong place. So I think we need to start asking the right questions instead of looking for the same answers in the same place. So we go into these business portals that they're always going to be talking the corporate language about profit making, and it's not separating in terms of reality of the world. We know that we are facing climate change. We know the environmental challenge is massive, is huge, and it's hard to face it alone. And we
Yes.
can't even do it alone. We can do small things, but we can't actually do this alone. And we know we're losing ground on that. But it's also, we know that politically things are getting more complicated because they go together. So the pressures are mounting. But I think really for each individual, each one of you that is there thinking and contemplating in terms of social entrepreneurship, I would say the biggest challenge is the same challenge that I always had to face myself too. It's fear. It's
Mm.
not just your fear of try or jumping into the water in the dark water, or the fear of going and knocking in a door and ask, look, I'm thinking about this, would you buy this? uh, all of these are these little fears that are everywhere. And fear, not just our fear, but the fear that is being spread intentionally. We can see that the entire, like today, in terms of content in social media, like more than half of the content in social media is designed to inspire fear on people, and people becoming closer and closer and closer, and they're hiding further away from the risk. And the risk is life. The risk is actually living life to the best that we can, to the fullest that we can. So I think these are the biggest challenges. Of course, you're going to look into the literature, and you're going to see a lot about competition. And you have to look at that. Who is going to compete with you? Yes, it's a reality that might happen. You have to look in terms of security and safety. Yeah, you have to look in terms of intellectual property and all those things that you have to secure yourself so that you don't get exploited in your efforts to make a good enterprise. But really, the biggest challenge that we can look at is fear. Not just our fear, but it's the fear of your partners, the fear of your competitors, the fear that is in your public, in your beneficiaries. They also are afraid, and we need to constantly be prepared to deal with that and to face it with more courage, with more initiative, with passion. I think is essential for that. And obviously, with hard work and good planning and good execution. This is simple things. We don't do things like without thinking. I mean, maybe what we need to look at, the biggest obstacle that we have is our own minds, in terms of how do we really conduct ourselves. Do you know what you're doing? Did you wake up this morning knowing what you're doing? I'm sure you did, because you're here and you planned and you organized, and now you're executing this talk. So it is about a little bit of forecasting, a little bit but you have to get over the fears. You have to get over that kind of mind obstacle. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I think that is the biggest challenge.
Thank you for sharing. I also agree because sometimes I read somewhere that the fear of jumping is the moment where you should jump. So exactly that, and you actually partly answered my next question, which was, for instance, let's take an example, me as a young person with a business idea in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. So, okay, I overcome my fear of starting something and I decided to go into it. So, what would be the first step in terms of a professional approach towards creating something?
Uh-huh.
Do you have any idea
Uh,
in that field?
okay. Well, first of all, I think do not get too attached to your own ideas.
Mm.
Okay. Instead of you having one business idea in your mind, and every day you think and then you dream about that, and you keep thinking about it, but you don't do much about it. What you do is have many business ideas in your mind. Every day you wake up with a new one. Every way, and with that new idea, you create a routine or some kind of schedule where you're going to do certain things. Okay, I'm going to check my idea if it's possible. Do not discard it. It could be something that you think, oh no, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. That's impossible. Uh, but it's not. What you need to do is to check your own feasibility. You do that very first intuition to check the feasibility of your idea. Is my idea possible? In what way? Can I do it? First of all, so you're going to say, can I produce what I think I can produce? Am I capable? Usually, people, when they have an idea, they think they can. Sometimes they think they can produce part of something,
Mhm.
and the other part, and that's a good, already good progress in your idea. When you realize the things that you cannot do,
Mhm.
right? Because some people think, oh yeah, because I can't do these parts, then I need to produce. I have this great idea, but I need an app, and I don't know how to program an app for the computer. And that means I'm gonna need money to pay somebody. Don't look at that. Don't look at the obstacles. Look at the end game. And look at the end game and look at all the little hoops that you're going to have to jump over to get to the end of the line. Sometimes, and a lot of times, what you're going to have to do is to bring partners, to bring people to help you, to find the people that can do the things that you can't do, to find the ways to go around that obstacle that you identified, and not give up in the first time that you see an obstacle, because there's no business, there's no idea that is going to go all the way to the finish line without jumping hoops. Sometimes the jumping hoops is in the production, is how do you create what you want to do. Sometimes it's in the marketing, how are you going to get people to find out what you're doing, and how you're going to convince them that that's a good thing that they need. Sometimes if you have to work too hard in convincing people, then you got to look back at your feasibility of your idea and think, well, is this really a need for people? Do people really need that? Because sometimes we have a great idea because it's something that we like to do, but it doesn't mean that other people need that. So you need to check that out. If it's something that you like to do, then find out if you can adapt that to something that people need, because that's where it starts. If you're going to bring people in to consume to help you with your idea, with your enterprise, it needs to be something that they need as well. And also, it's the same thing with the people that cooperate with you. They need to find something in there for them. But you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to have all the answers. All you need to do is to go one step at a time. So you wake up with an idea and you start finding out, can I do it? What do I need? It's how we ask the questions. The questions, it should never be questions that put an obstacle on what you're doing. It should be, what would it take for that to become a reality? See, it's a different thing. If you say, oh no, why can't I do something? Why is it too hard to do something? Or am I going to cook burgers? No, I'm going to look a burger shop. And the first thing you question, you say, yeah, but McDonald's already doing burgers. And so I can't compete with McDonald's. Well, it really is the wrong question to ask. It really is the wrong way to approach that. It's, are your burgers really that good? Because I know a lot of people that are sick of McDonald's burgers and they still like to eat that, anywhere in the world. So it's really more about understanding, where is your idea unique? Where is your idea going to serve that particular group of people that you want to serve? Sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes you are in a conversation with the friends and you're having a beer or something like that, and you hear the conversations. And when you hear with the entrepreneur ears, you also identify opportunity. That's a key word. It's opportunity. Where is the opportunity? Opportunities a lot of times are in problems. So when you listen to other people's problems, when you listen, really listen actively, what people think are the problems of the world, or the problems in their life, or the problems in their small community or in their family, when you hear that, you start thinking, okay, that is a problem for them. Could I with could I have a solution for it? And that's where ideas come about, and that's where you start checking your ideas. And then once the idea starts taking shape, it's about planning, it's about researching, it's about finding out, it's about planning. And if you are passionate about it, you will do it as for all the time you can. You'll be putting a lot of energy into that, because that really is what comes down to. The difference between having a job somewhere or working for someone else, okay, one of the differences, or being an entrepreneur, is that as an entrepreneur, you're going to work a lot more. You're going to work harder. Do not think that the idea of being your own boss means that you're not going to work. Yes, you can be your own boss, but you are going to work harder. If you're going to make it work, you're going to work a lot harder. And
It
there's no
means the
time,
opposite.
there's no turning off when you start with that. You work all the time, but it's pleasurable as well, because you have that independence, that freedom. That is very much something that moves young people forward. The idea of being an independent individual, doing something that is positive, that is making a living out of that, and is making the world better in one way or another, even if it's a better burger.
Yeah, of course. And it's harder to get fired if you're your own boss, I guess.
If you are, but what sometimes people fire themselves, is when they
Yeah.
say, I can't do this. But it really, also you get used to that.
Mhm.
And once you've done that for a few years, I mean, I've done this most of my life. Most of my life, I have not been an employee.
Mhm.
I used to joke in Brazil that was like I was the happiest unemployed person, because a lot of times, just like now, it's a lot of times it's we are in that space between one idea and the next,
Yes.
right?
And
And
that
that space can be that space can be hard. It's like the writer that doesn't know what to write anymore. He wrote a few books, and the books are out there, and they're great books, but all of a sudden, bang, writer's block. Can't write anything. There is a dark space in the head. It's a dark space, and we need to create that regime, that sort of that habit of not going into the dark and looking for the light. Sometimes, and I think the older we get, the better we get at that. And it's not easy when you're young. I admit that. It's much harder. It was much harder for me when I was young. Nowadays, I think, oh, well, waiting for the next. And you're in that space that can be a bit painful, anxiety and all the pressures. Not a good time to be watching the news, when you don't know where the next cash is going to come from. But the moment between ideas is very important as well. You have to acknowledge this is the gift of life. We are living life right now. It's not tomorrow. It's not about the future. It's about now. Now we're living it, and we might be riding the wave of an enterprise going very well, or we might be in that slump until the next wave. And it's a little bit more like that. But I don't see much difference between the rest of the world. You know, if you were employed and then you're working in the same job that you're not happy for a very long time, that sounds like a dark place to me too. I'm not very experienced on that, but it sounds like a dark place too. Yeah.
I completely agree. And I would like to take a minute to remind our participants of the questions you are really free to ask in the
Do you have
comment
questions
section.
there?
Not yet, but I think one or two, but I have still one question more on my own.
The chat.
So yes, I would like to ask you, like you already mentioned communities, and I remember back when we had a conversation that you were also talking about the communities in Brazil, which you helped and so on. I would like to
Ah.
know, would you share for the people who have not been of part of the workshops, is there a positive story from a community you have been with and worked with, for instance, that really inspired you to work in this social entrepreneurship food connection?
There are many stories. I mean, I would say Cora. You know, Cora inspires me. It's a community. It's doing work there with good intent. Everywhere I go, there is inspiring stories. Like last year, I was in Mozambique, in the border with Zimbabwe, and a very poor community, a situation that it was very difficult for me, and at the same time very inspiring to see the energy, mostly women, and working and walking sometimes for miles. Like for some people walked more than 20 kilometers every day just to catch water, just to bring water, and they still have that energy to some of that water to put it on the soil to grow their food because they will need it. So and that amazing capacity of of sharing and also calculating the resource to a level that we most people couldn't even imagine in terms of economy. Incredibly organized, and this is what we call about economy. This is the level of organization that we can look at. So any community that we go to, we're going to find inspiring stories. Any community that we go to, we're going to find inspiring opportunities everywhere. Every day you look at some place and I think permaculture has helped me a lot with that. And it's something I do recommend for people to read about it, to try to learn a little bit about the permaculture mind, the permaculture mindset. You don't
Yeah.
need to have any certification or anything like that, but if you learn that mindset of understanding energy flow around you, and everything is energy.
Yes.
So we look at water, and we look at trees, and we look at the soil, and we look at land, and we look at property, we look at buildings and people mostly as energy.
Yes.
And that mindset, it's very helpful. It's very helpful because it opens your eyes to opportunities. And
Yeah. And I
once,
can.
and I'd say that's probably the most important skill that I would recommend to people. Not it's the skill of identifying opportunities in the flow of energy around you.
Around us,
Okay,
yes.
consider money also as a form of energy.
Yeah.
Consider money as money is flowing, and there is opportunity in that too. So that mindset, I think it has helped me a lot. It has changed the direction in my life a long time ago, and I would recommend to most people try to find out a little bit more, learn about that. We're learning all the time, but
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I think we should definitely learn more.
Yes, and I can see that we are having an energy flow of questions in our
Here we
chat.
go. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're getting
so
close to the end.
let's tackle those up. So the question from
Yeah, I can
Nicolo
see the
is,
chat here.
yes, I will read the question to you if it's,
Okay.
yeah. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to watch your back with business partners? How did that impact you, and what advice would you give to maintain a true spirit of collaboration in such a moment? Oh,
Oh, tough one. Well,
yes.
I have to tell you, the earlier we learn that lesson, the better. It's not about watching your back, and it's not so much about trust. A lot of times in life, we are not clear about the expectations that we have on ourselves and on others, and the others are not clear about the expectations. It's like marriage, right? So you talk about partners, we can look in terms of marriage or partnerships, all kinds of partnerships. It is about clarity. It is about starting with a good plan and starting with a clear plan, and not leave much to chance or to hope. If we hope that things will work, yeah, that's a good thing, but that doesn't substitute planning, okay, when it comes down to enterprising. So watching your back is probably not the best expression to say that. I don't think if I get to that point that I'm watching my back, I'm out of there as soon as possible, right? But there is trust, but verify, right? I don't know who said that, but that's a good expression. You have to trust. You have to trust. You can't dive into any kind of relationship or any kind of partnership without some amount of trust. But you also have to verify, because people are people, and no one is more people than others, right? We all have our shortcomings. And that's why clarity is important, because we need to really be clear about our expectations. What do I want back? What do I expect back? How much you're going to be working for this? How much time you're going to be putting into this, right? Are you going to put some money into this? Okay, let's see. How are you going to get paid back? It's just like life, if some of you have partners and some of you have disagreements, when we're talking about an enterprise, it's like a marriage. It's a marriage that sometimes involves several people, so it's more complicated. It can be more complicated. So you need to know the people and need to be, but if you can make your contracts, your agreements very clear, if you can write it down, if you can try to anticipate all the problems that you may have and how you're going to solve them and how much everyone is contributing, you have less of a chance of getting hurt in it. And that's the advice I can give.
Yes, to be careful as much as possible and to go with the flow. So the
Planning.
next one is, can entrepreneurship fit into permaculture? The stereotype seems that it cannot. So I would
Sorry,
disagree.
can you say that again? I didn't miss that.
Can entrepreneurship fit into permaculture? According to the
Yeah.
stereotype, it cannot.
Sorry, I still didn't get that question. Is it in the chat here? If you're feeling inspired, please drop a question now. Have you ever found, should I work or have a job? You mentioned the mindset. No, I don't see that. I don't see that question here. And I didn't quite get it, the concept of the question. Could you say it in your own words for me?
I'm sorry, I'm having my neighbor is currently mowing the lawn, and yeah, thank you. So I can see that we are. Yeah, yes. I guess we will wrap up these questions and somehow find an answer and send it to the people in the group chat, because we're running out of time, sadly, because we are having our next session here. Because we will try somehow to not leave unanswered questions. We will come back to you all. I need to wrap up because we are under time pressure, as I said. So what we said, long story short, is that social entrepreneurship is a powerful tool for transforming food systems. That challenges are existing, but that collaboration together with sustainability and innovation, as André said, are basically keys to a successful business idea, as well as entrepreneurship in social terms. And that there are some practical steps which you can use to start if you're having an idea of a business, of a social entrepreneurship. And those basic steps are including something which is called SWOT analysis, as well as a business model canvas. And all these tools, dear participants, you can find on our webpage, which Joe already sent in the beginning of our chat, but you can scroll up and find it. And you can spare your time of you watching numbers of YouTubes and Google Forms and everything else. So we made it short for you. I mean, people from Quora made it short for you,
Yeah.
not me personally. So I would like to thank you, Andre, for sharing your knowledge and for spreading unconditionally everything you had and all the experiences and everything with us. And I would like to invite people to stay tuned for the next FoodBack online talk, which is from Lucy Legan, nature-based learning. It's today at 10. You can find the links on your emails, which were already sent. And what can I say? Keep building the future of sustainable food entrepreneurship. Be positive, and when you feel fear, jump.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I would like to say to people, if I noticed there's a couple more questions. Feel free to contact me. You know, I share everything I know. There's nothing that I'm holding. You can get my email. I'm sure you through the FoodBack website you can get my contacts, and I'm happy to support you in your ideas, in your new enterprises, and hope to work for the best. You know, we can't think too much about how to change the world before we change what's around us. So, just to answer one of the questions I saw here, you know, it's not about changing the world first. It's about changing what you do first.
Yes, thank you,
Thank
Andre.
you very much. Thank you for the
Thank you, Joe.
invitation. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure to be part of this.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
all.
Thank you, Cora, and thank you all for joining us. And I hope that you enjoyed our small podcast about FoodBack project and about social entrepreneurship and food.